I believe YouTube was the first platform that really took off for gaining awareness and traction. And I'd love to go back to the beginning. Like, what decisions did you make that actually made you pierce through? Were you conscious that you're like, I'm going all in on YouTube? Was it more like, was it very intentional? Was it testing? I want to go back to what level were you at when you started?
Okay,
Because your result was very different.
I wasn't thinking at all about YouTube. I wasn't thinking about the internet. I mean, this is going to date me here, but I like grew up in this era where it was just insane. I was already out of high school, by the way, when I got my first email address. So the first go-to in your head when you're building a company is not online. Like, that wasn't a thought. You know, I went from seeing people just one-on-one as mostly a medical intuitive who just ended up helping people much more with emotional and mental dynamics than I did physical dynamics. I went from doing that to like, how do I reach people? Oh, a book, you know, because like in my era, that's what you did, especially in this field. So I wrote a book and people liked that book, but it was very much by accident. I ran into a bunch of people who were a lot younger than me, actually. And a lot of them were just talking about this YouTube thing. And it was back in the day when YouTube was a place for just party tricks. It was just like weird stuff, family home videos. Oh, look, there's a way that we can, you know, snapshot ourselves on Halloween and send it to our grandma somewhere else. And of course, you can't open the email, but I was looking through some of those videos and laughing at them and thinking to myself, wait a minute, people can upload things here. I could upload things here. And it was very much like risky. I felt like I remembered distinctly that feeling that it was going to be a major risk, whether I was just going to annoy people and get like 3 views because what I'm putting out there is informational rather than putting stuff out there that is humorous or, you know, entertaining in some way. But I was like, I'm just going to take the risk. So I started taking my clients that I had at the time and getting them to submit questions. That's how the whole thing started, like, and Ask Teal, because I was like, I don't know what people want to know. I mean, I definitely knew I was having an interaction with, like, how much people didn't know about the greater universe and about the way that things work, things I knew innately. So I was like, all right, I have things that I can share with the world that definitely would benefit people to know. But there was still this big gap between what is it they want to know, though, because there's a difference between what I wish people would know and what people want to know, I've noticed. So when they were submitting these questions, I just was like, all right, I'm going to take a question and I'm going to do a video to answer a question a week, right? And it was literally like wildfire, completely unexpected. And like overnight, just bam, people were like, whoa, 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 this is cool. You know, all of a sudden I've got like the first offer to do a radio show ever. You know, I remember I was really nervous for that one. I was 10 times more nervous, ironically, for the radio show than I was for the first time I ever stepped on stage. So I did, you know, it was just more and more and more and more offers. And then it turned to we were starting to see all the comments from people around the whole world. You know, it's like, now it's you got to come talk in Australia. You have to come to Europe, you know, and I'm telling you, it was literally like overnight. It was a wildfire on a level that none of us were prepared for. All of a sudden there was no way to straddle sort of doing the full-time mommy thing and, you know, trying to do this business at the same time. And so you're faced with this, you have to grow very fast and you have to adapt very fast. And I'm sorry, Teal, but your life is around the world that quick. I'm like, I hate airplanes.
You know, if I've watched a lot of documentaries, right, that talk about, you know, maybe the more business ones, which are like the guys are in the garage, they build like the first computer.
Oh,
right. And then what's really crazy in every one of them, I'm picking on that one because I watched it recently and I went through the book. But there's always like that innate struggle to figuring out, which you just went through. And I think for a lot of people, like that's an exciting part of the story. Like, wow, okay, she even had to figure it out. I will just draw attention for everybody listening. If you notice, the first thing she was doing was actually practicing the craft, one-on-one building experience. And like, to me, for a lot of people that are impatient, they're like, I just want to get to this. I just want to be, why is nobody seeing, but I haven't actually put in the work. And, I'll hold my point and kind of expand on this because I feel like this is the one I always want to stretch on, but how much work needs to be put into doing the work with individuals before you actually go and make a step like this?
Oh my gosh, I don't know how to quantify that.
Right.
I will say, though, that working with individuals serves as like a snapshot for what you're going to run into in a bigger way when you're working with groups, things like that. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I don't feel like there's this perfect number, you know. or this perfect level of dedication to doing individual work first.
Then let me ask it this way.
Okay.
Did you have a feeling at some point that you're like, now I'm ready?
No, it was literally that I was working with people one-on-one, and I would have a person in front of me, and I would be like, well, you understand why you have stomach issues. The reason that you have stomach issues is because of this horribly poor self-esteem. Why do we have horribly poor self-esteem? Because back in childhood, this is the pattern. Do you notice that pattern in your current relationship? Oh my God, yes. It was like, all of a sudden I got, whoa, wait. People don't even see this? And I started to panic because it was like, oh no, like if the whole rest of the world, we're suffering this badly and people don't understand that one pattern that for me is so, it's just like, what color paint is that? And you'd be like, pink. That's how it is for me, right? So I actually started to get afraid of the amount of information that people were lacking and what that meant, the implication for not only personal suffering, but the patterns that would be carried out in the world. And it was an automatic calling. It's like, I have to get this information to more people then. It's not a joke. It's not about, but that's the thing. It wasn't about me needing success and needing significance and needing, you know what I mean? I was not going out there, don't get me wrong. I enjoy, significance, but it's like, I wasn't going out there for the purpose of like pulling significance from the people. It wasn't about what I wanted to take. And that's what I noticed as being the major difference between some of us in this field and the rest of us in this field. It's like a lot of people who get into this, they're only thinking about stuff that's completely unrelated to the craft itself. They're thinking about, this is how I'm going to gain significance. This is how I'm going to be relevant. This is how I'm going to make a lot of money. And all of those things are a taking from the public. When I first came into this, and this is what I attributed the majority of my success to, it was like, I can't sit here and watch this. I cannot sit here and watch the amount that people are suffering not knowing the information like this. I have to give them the information. And it was like, so it was like this flow, just constant flow out towards the people. And I genuinely believe people felt that. They felt the fact that it was like this stream of, go ahead, take it. And when you do that, people are like, oh God, yes.
There's a couple of things I picked up on that. One is for a lot of people, they actually don't realize what they know is actually a perspective that most people don't actually acknowledge. And that's one that I even struggle with, because sometimes I'll go and talk about sales or business and I'll be like,
no, I know this with you personally.
Well, you
do this with me all the time. You're like, Teal, it's so easy. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. It's fascinating because we're blind to our own excellence. Yes. And I think that's a shame, because then you're just like, oh, okay, I need to become this epic man. I've seen you work with somebody on stage. It was 2 days ago. I was at the event in LA, and there was a gentleman that didn't understand about how his own authenticity could be the gift that he could provide. And so to me, if it was my prescription, I would be telling people the reason you go talk to people is you can get that kind of feedback loop. And I feel like that's a pretty good place to start for someone who's looking for finding what their excellence is.
It is, yeah.
The second thing I picked up on is you were able to provide this information without having this inner sense of neediness from people, right? And I find that in the space of spirituality, a lot of times there's not necessarily like affluence that is supporting the individual. So there's a lot of like, oh, but I need to go into this all in, and I need to make money now.
Oh, I would just like to get this out of the way. The spiritual field is the worst place to make money in the universe. That's what people don't get. They're seeing people like me, and they're seeing, other people who are like I'm talking the top of the top of the top. This is more competitive and more difficult to make it than any sports I have ever played in, and I did that professionally. So like a lot of people are getting in and they're seeing us, and they're not understanding what goes behind it, and they're like, oh, this is just going to be easy and I'm going to make a lot of money. No, you're not. No, you're not. This is not a good place if you want to make money. Period. The end.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.